Boa tarde, pessoal. Oi. Tem como tirar isso? Oi. 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 Agora sim. Então, a gente está no último dia da International Week. Acho que vocês chegaram por último, né? Estão no último dia, mas tudo certo. Dá para aproveitar um pouquinho. Então, agora a gente vai ter um papo com o Fernando Custódio. Ele é da International Business School, a IBS. A gente tem a parceria com eles há muitos anos. Eles mandam muita gente da UX para lá, para os Estados Unidos, Itália, vários lugares. O Fernando, ele é diretor das relações institucionais da IBS Américas e ele é professor assistente das universidades da Califórnia e New York. Então, não precisa ser aluno da UX para ir também, né, nos intercâmbios da IBS. E ele vai dar um papo agora com a gente sobre a inteligência artificial transformando empresas e carreiras. Então, obrigada, Fernando, pela tua presença. Sempre muito bom conversar contigo. Então, agora a fala é toda sua.
Muito obrigado, Ana Carolina, é um prazer estar com vocês. Quero parabenizar toda a comunidade acadêmica da UX por essa semana incrível internacional aí que está encerrando, né? Que bom, com a grata satisfação da gente fechar aí a semana com essa temática. E, como você mesmo falou, né, nós temos aí uma participação muito grande junto à comunidade acadêmica da UX há muitos anos, né, desde o professor Evaldo Cuiava, que teve a oportunidade de ir fazer os programas lá internacional na Califórnia com a gente, e a partir daí a gente iniciou um amplo e bem-sucedido programa de bolsas aí junto com a instituição de vocês. É uma satisfação estar aqui. Essa semana nós tivemos um simpósio também internacional com participantes de 7 países diferentes e 17 profissionais, onde foi trazido aí durante 3 dias temáticas muito interessantes, e a gente escolheu uma em especial para trazer hoje aqui para vocês, e vocês vão poder ouvir aí, foi amplamente divulgado nos nossos canais, né, na internet, e hoje a gente tem a oportunidade de compartilhar com vocês qual foram as discussões desse aspecto, né? Mas, assim, sem muito mais me alongar, eu acho que tem bastante coisa para a gente ouvir desses excelentes profissionais e professores das universidades que a gente é parceiro, e eles trouxeram a temática da inteligência artificial, né, transformando empresas e carreiras. Então, acho que é um momento bem bacana a gente ouvir essa temática. A inteligência artificial é o que mais tem se falado ultimamente, e é uma grande aula, realmente, que a gente vai poder ouvir deles. Para completar só, eu queria fazer um grande convite a todos vocês que estão assistindo, e aos que vão assistir posteriormente, se o evento ficar gravado, né? Que é a competição que vem junto com esse simpósio, tá? Então, a gente lançou uma competição de projetos de inteligência artificial, onde participantes do mundo inteiro vão poder se credenciar ali e participar. Então, eu vou deixar as informações todas com a área internacional, para que vocês, era até hoje, eu consegui estender para a próxima semana, que vocês possam fazer inscrição. Então, assim, pessoas que têm projetos já ou não, né, projetos na área de inteligência artificial, que tenha grupo ou não, também é outra característica, se inscrevam e vão participar de uma competição, né, de projetos nessa área, tudo de forma online, né, e vocês vão formar grupos internacionais e vão apresentar os projetos. E os vencedores aí, a gente tem mais de $200 mil em premiação que vão ser distribuídas para os vencedores do projeto. Tá? Então, é muito importante, a área internacional da UX vai compartilhar a informação de como fazer essa inscrição, e vocês vão ter até a semana que vem, a sexta-feira que vem, para se reunir, formar alguns grupos e se inscrever. Bom, então, falando especificamente aqui da temática, né, que é a temática da inteligência artificial transformando empresas e carreiras. Esses profissionais, esses keynote speakers que a gente trouxe, eles vêm aí dos Estados Unidos, da Inglaterra, depois vocês vão ouvir um pouquinho deles aí no vídeo. falando dessa temática. Mas, basicamente, eles querem responder algumas perguntas, né? Quais são os possíveis impactos da inteligência artificial no mundo dos negócios e nas carreiras? Outra pergunta: qual o perfil dos líderes do futuro com relação à necessidade da aplicação da inteligência artificial? E quais também são as perspectivas da inteligência artificial nos esforços de inovação para uma sociedade mais humana, mais justa e mais inclusiva? Uma temática muito interessante, que agora eu gostaria de pedir, né, para que a técnica aí incluísse para nós, e aí ao final a gente pode fazer um fechamento para conversar um pouquinho mais. Tá? É um vídeo, é uma gravação, ali estão os painelistas, né? Assim, relativamente longa, mas ela é bem diversa, né? A gente vai ter vários profissionais falando, né, dessas temáticas. Então, vale a pena vocês ficarem até o final, e ao final a gente volta de novo aqui para fazer a conclusão e deixar um abraço a todos, tá bom? Por favor, pode dar o play aí.
Olá, senhoras e senhores, eu sou o professor Ricardo Brito, e é um prazer estar aqui junto com vocês para este que é o último dia da Global Management Week 2023. Os temas deste ano são Globalization Shift, que foi discutido no primeiro dia, Climate Changes, painel de ontem, e AI Impacts on Companies and Careers, tema de discussão com especialistas que você acompanha a partir de agora. Lembrando que se você ainda não enviou sua pergunta antecipadamente, você pode fazer isso através do chat. E as inscrições para participar da competição de projetos de inteligência artificial estão abertas. Você precisa montar o seu grupo e participar desse desafio que tem prêmios de mais de $200 mil em bolsas de estudos para programas executivos. Veja detalhes e premiações no regulamento da competição, cujo prazo de inscrição vai até o dia 6 de outubro. Para o dia de hoje, temos 4 convidados especiais que irão falar sobre as transformações provocadas pelo avanço da inteligência artificial nas empresas e como isso tem transformado os negócios e as carreiras. Temos conosco o professor Julian Espinosa, da California State University em Northridge. Muito obrigado. Thank you very much for being with us. O professor Julian é fundador do podcast PAP Digital, cofundador da CISO e professor adjunto da California State University em Northridge. Agradeço muito também pela presença hoje conosco da professora Astrid Kiel, diretora de programas de MBA da University of Livonia, na Califórnia. Ela é PhD em Business e Marketing e possui grande experiência acadêmica nessa área. O professor Ai Ren, da State University of New York, também está conosco. Muito obrigado pela sua participação. Thank you very much for your participation, Professor Ai Ren. O professor Ai Ren é PhD em Matemática, com pesquisa na área de Learning Machine e IoT. E, por fim, teremos conosco o professor Terence Tse. Thank you very much, Professor Terence, for being with us. Professor Terence Tse é doutor em administração e professor na Rhodes International Business School de Londres, e ele é também cofundador e diretor executivo da Nexus Frontier Tech, uma empresa de tecnologia sediada em Londres, especializada no desenvolvimento e integração de soluções de IA. Ele é também conselheiro de negócio e coautor da AI Republic, Building the Nexus Between Humans and Intelligent Automation, um best-seller internacional da Amazon. Vamos começar o nosso dia de hoje com o professor Ren, e antes de falarmos sobre assuntos mais complexos, aplicações práticas, vamos começar do básico. Professor Terence, how can we define artificial intelligence in the context of the recent wave of generative AI?
Hi, I would like to explain a few terminologies that is really hot and trendy right now. For example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. Let's start with machine learning. So machine learning usually are more like providing projections, predictions, when we feed a model or an algorithm some data. And the interesting thing is the more we feed them, and the more capability that this algorithm can give us better estimation. Within the machine learning, actually, we have supervised machine learning and unsupervised machine learning. It depends on how much the expertise in this task involved in this algorithm design. So this machine learning is a subset like this. And within the machine learning, there's another subset that's called deep learning. In general, deep learning studies neural networks, and it provides conditional or unconditional relationship between the nodes, just like to study how our brain cell works. So we can tell machine learning is bigger, and its subset includes deep learning. So actually, the artificial intelligence is a bigger set that contains machine learning. And also it has some other components, such as natural language processing. So for example, it is one of the functions that ChatGPT has. Another example is like image recognition. So we see those examples everywhere. So one of the famous examples is in the hospital. Doctors will use those kind of AI application or tool to help them as a second opinion to read X-ray images or MRI images. For example, a patient, do they have lung cancer or any shadow within the image? Those kind of AI tools can help them. Yes, this is part of artificial intelligence application. And you can see AI actually is the biggest site that includes all those components. So this leads to my preferred definition about artificial intelligence. Of course, there are many currently, different people have different suggestions or recommendations. But my preferred is artificial intelligence should be at least matching the capacity of a human being.
Thanks, Professor Ren. Thank you very much. A AI é provavelmente a inovação tecnológica mais disruptiva da nossa geração. Uma tecnologia em rápida evolução com grande potencial para tornar os trabalhadores mais produtivos, as empresas mais eficientes, estimular inovações em novos produtos, serviços e, no final, elevar o padrão de vida das pessoas. No entanto, algumas pessoas compreendem que a IA é essencialmente diferente na natureza de todas as tecnologias que os humanos criaram até hoje. Enquanto avanços tecnológicos anteriores na automação tendiam a fazer tarefas rotineiras, a IA tem o potencial de automatizar tarefas não rotineiras. Tendo em vista essa problemática, eu gostaria de pedir ao professor Julian uma avaliação geral desse cenário. Ok? Hello, Professor Julian. How do you evaluate this scenario? What kinds of risks and opportunities AI poses for companies and workers?
You know, I'm very bullish on AI. What it really comes down to is that this is a paradigm shift. I don't know if this is the biggest disruptor of our lifetime, within our lifetime, but it's definitely a disruptor, and it's definitely a paradigm shift. I always like to look at history and look back and say, what happened in history and where is evidence that we can glean from this kind of information? So one of my favorite examples specifically is the automobile industry. At some point, we transported ourselves through horse and carriage, and horses moved us around. The fuel for the horse and the fuel for the transportation was hay. So when automobiles first hit the roads, well, we didn't even have roads, we just had dirt. When they hit for the first time, that created a big paradigm shift because we no longer needed horses. We didn't need carriages. So what industries did we no longer need? We didn't need people to tend to horses anymore. We didn't need the hay industry as much as we needed it back then. We didn't need people to clean up the droppings of the animals on the streets. There were so many different industries that were disrupted when horse and carriage were removed out of the ecosystem when it came to transportation. Now, the automobile industry, how many jobs did it create? How many new things did it do? So I think this is the same thing with AI. It is a paradigm shift. It is changing things. With the jobs being lost, there is new jobs. The question becomes, is there a delta? What is the delta? Is the delta greater or less, right? Are there more new jobs or are there less new jobs? So that all will be said. I think today where we are, and I like to live in practicality, is that AI is going to be probably replacing jobs, but it will also be adding jobs. You can't also use AI and completely remove the human out of it, because it is not there yet, and I don't think it will. I don't know if it'll ever be there, but it needs humans. Without it, it's not as efficient.
Thanks, Professor Julian. And for you, Professor Terence, in the same context, what would you recommend for companies and managers to take care of their business and their workers?
That is a very good question. The reasons why I say it's a very good question is simply where in my experience working with clients on AI, the first step they almost jump into is to figure out, okay, what are the things that, like, what are the business propositions we can actually use AI for to make the to make the highest return given the latest technologies. Now, it sounds rational with that, but there are two fundamental problems, which I think are the wrong first steps, if you were to ask me. The first is one should never jump into the most complex technology straight away, because complex technologies is very, very difficult to implement, very, very difficult to actually get it working, especially when we're talking about putting it into an organizational setting. And the second thing, I think is important, is that when it comes to thinking about what kind of results one can get from the process, is to think about how you can quantify the results. And therefore, our recommendations to the clients is that you should not actually use AI, especially when this is the first time, on growth, on improving your revenue. Instead, use AI for the purpose of cost cutting. Why? Simple, because you can measure cost savings a lot easier than the potential growth in revenue that you can make as a result of using AI. So I think these are the two most important first steps managers need to think about when it comes to taking on AI.
Thanks, Professor Tse. Bem, nós sabemos que as empresas estão adotando a IA não apenas porque podem, mas porque elas precisam. A IA pode afetar significativamente a competição entre empresas, opondo organizações que são adotantes precoces de novas tecnologias a organizações mais conservadoras. Alguns estudos mostram que as corporações maiores são as mais propensas a adotar tecnologias de IA em seus processos, bem como alguns setores especificamente, como o setor de informações, serviços, gestão e finanças, são esses setores mais propensos a adotar a tecnologia de inteligência artificial. Então, eu gostaria de perguntar ao professor Tse como uma empresa pode acelerar a adoção de inteligência artificial para se manter competitiva. Professor Tse, in your opinion, how can a company overcome eventual barriers and speed up the AI adoption in order to stay competitive?
Thank you so much again. So, as I said earlier, one of the keys to success in putting AI into business is by being able to measure the return on investment. So, if you look at the very simple formula, right? Return on investment. The key to success is to make sure that you can measure the return, right? Because the investment, you know how much you are going to pay for the development anyway. So, figuring out, having a stronger, more confidence in establishing the return is a critical thing. Another thing that one should need to think about is on the investment side, and that is instead of thinking of investing all your capital money into AI, which results in a huge expenditure. Is there any way you can actually work with your vendors, work with your AI suppliers, and see whether you can actually pay for things over time? In this very case, you can actually use the future benefits you generate from AI in order to pay for the AI services. So, I think that is one of the key things we would recommend to to our clients when it comes to financial considerations. But when it comes to organizational cultural barriers, we have seen a lot of them. The way we would recommend, everyone, every company to at least think about, right, if not even try, is this. Usually what you will find is that the middle managers they are the one who are a lot more keen to use AI or like for the purpose of at least automation, because they are actually overlooking the processes, the workflows day in, day out. One of the biggest problems, believe it or not, still is that, like when it comes to the higher echelon, the higher ranking officers, especially when it comes to the C-suites, they would have a lot more resistance. They would have a lot more hesitations when it comes to using AI. Not least because they're not closers to the actual business processes, but also the fact that a lot of the time what we find is that they are actually they have a less understanding of what AI can and cannot do. So the way we do it in order to actually overcome this barrier is to make sure that at the very, very start of identifying AI projects within the business is to invite all the C-suites people, right? Give them a workshop to actually, one, educate them, get them to actually understand better as to what AI is, what it can and cannot do, and two, just as important, basically getting them to actually have their buy-ins so that they would be at least, provide the blessing necessary for the middle managers to actually crack along, get going with implementing AI. It sounds very, backwards. It sounds very it's almost like dinosaurs, right? But this is what it is. And we have found that workshops to be a very, very useful way in getting the confidence of the C-suites to to put more faith into any of the AI projects that the lower echelons will be putting in.
What about you, Professor Julian? What is your opinion about that?
It's a great question. So when it comes to removing the barriers of AI and adopting it sooner than later, everything starts with leadership, right? So if your leadership isn't spending time in not educating its staff, not creating exercises to be able to show what's possible, then that's going to be a big barrier. I think the barrier is leadership. You got to have a leader who is using the technology and showing its employees how to use those technologies. And there's different things that can be done. Once a manager or a leader of a company has started to implement those things, they can implement exercises, workshops with their company and with their employees to show them what can be done.
Thanks, Professor Julian. Agora eu gostaria de perguntar à professora Astrid quais seriam os usos e aplicações mais comuns da IA no campo de marketing, que é a área dela. Professor Astrid, based on your understanding, your experience of AI applications in marketing, what would be, in your opinion, the typical use and applications in the field of marketing for artificial intelligence?
Thank you so much for having me. Very interesting area, of course, big growth area in AI. Though it has been extensively used in marketing, specifically in online retailing and in advertising, online content creation, social media. So in online retailing, we see already the use of AI in all sorts of chatbot applications. I'm sure you've chatted with a chatbot, and those are not just automated systems, but also enhanced by AI. And then we have those personalization systems. Those are the ones that recommend products to you or personalize the website to be suited to your particular liking or your device and so on and so forth. So with recommendation systems, they use your past purchase history, your browsing history, your wish list to recommend future products that you may perhaps enjoy based not just on your own purchase history, but also other customers who are similar to you. So AI has also already had those applications. You also see specifically on certain online retailers that the pricing is very dynamic, right? Dynamic pricing. Again, this is influenced by AI based on available stock demand and other factors. So you see specifically, for example, on Amazon, that the prices vary widely. Even within a day, you can see the prices moving around. So there's already this big application in online retailing. And there's another big application with social media and content management and content creation. So you see, for example, a lot of the Google ads and other ad systems such as Bing, they have help for you in terms of keyword research, in terms of analysis of competitors, in terms of contents that you should potentially consider creating a blog out of. So there's SEO research and so on that is assisted with AI that can help marketers better communicate their value to customers. You may also have seen in Hootsuite or other social media platforms that they provide advice on when to best schedule your posts. And again, this is another sort of AI application.
Thank you. And in your opinion, what are the potential challenges of AI application in the field of marketing?
So one of the challenges, of course, is you may have noticed that I was talking about online retailing, online content creation, online advertising, those industries that were generated or adopted the online environment early on have an inherent advantage in terms of the application of AI compared to other industries who may be more traditional, may not have that online exposure, or smaller businesses that don't have that infrastructure. One of the biggest barriers to adopting AI is actually the lack of infrastructure. And this can be hardware, software, human know-how that is able to implement and make the best use of AI. There's some other barriers that are kind of not just marketing specific, but are more widespread, I would say. And that's the issue of data. AI is best performing and learns best, of course, when you have vast trove of high quality data. So it's not just about the amount of data, it's also about the quality of the data and the recency of the data. So feeding in, collecting, developing the systems so that you have them going into your AI to learn is one of the other challenges that many businesses are currently facing. Associated with this data is the concerns regarding privacy. And in certain countries already, there are regulations related to privacy issues with AI. So if I recall correctly, Italy has banned ChatGPT due to privacy concerns. And of course, that's a potential that we need to keep an eye out in terms of regulation, which typically lags technology. So this illustrates some of the risk that companies are exposing themselves to when they are adopting AI. The AI generations of, say, logos, content, and so on are not protectable at the current moment. So the Copyright Office says that a logo generated by AI, well, you can't protect that. An image created by AI is not protected, which means that you can use it, but so can your competitor or anybody else. So that poses challenges in terms of protecting your brand identity and protecting your marketing assets if you're making great use of these AI products. Another concern that is not necessarily a business concern because they're really concerned about legal issues is the ethical concern. Many of these AI systems are trained by scraping data, and some of that data are images by artists or voices by artists and actors. And we're scraping that data to create similar, inspired art, voices, acts, and so on. But those original artists are not getting compensated because individuals and companies are using these AI systems. So there's kind of this long-term concern as to whether AI will end up eroding the creativity because artists are not being compensated for their work. So that is kind of more of a long-term and ethical concern that may not be the most top of mind, perhaps, for many businesses. Also, kind of now diving in a little bit deeper into marketing, some of the content issues that may be relevant is currently Google is watching out for AI content. And that means in terms of SEO, in terms of search engine optimization, content created by AI is penalized. So content created by humans is elevated in terms of search engine optimization. So there's always this advantage in elevating your content by first using some AI, but then adding that personal human touch so that it ranks well on search engines. I'm trying to think of some other challenges. Some other challenges in adopting AI, of course, is the potential lack of connection with customers. AI really excels at the kind of big data, big aspect of it, and less so at developing those personal connections that are so valuable to customers. So that may be another element as to why it's not the most adopted, perhaps, in certain areas of marketing.
Bom, pessoal, interrompemos aqui um pouco, né, até porque nós temos um tempo limitado, mas de qualquer forma, acredito que tenha sido aí uma boa participação, né, desses especialistas em inteligência artificial, e assim, eu gostaria de concluir essa nossa passagem aqui, novamente agradecendo o convite, parabenizando, né, porque realmente esse trabalho que a gente vem fazendo, a UX vem fazendo e todos os parceiros, realmente um processo de inclusão, uma inclusão na comunidade global, né? Então o processo de internacionalização, como alguns pensam que é um processo elitista, é pelo contrário, né? É um processo de inclusão. A gente quer promover que todas as pessoas, ninguém fique para trás e que a gente possa incluí-los nessa comunidade global. E então é isso. Tivemos aí uma oportunidade de ouvir grandes nomes e eu quero também reforçar a questão da competição, né? A competição de projetos de inteligência artificial, que logo mais a área internacional vai encaminhar um e-mail marketing para toda a comunidade acadêmica, para que vocês possam participar e aí terem acesso a esses recursos que vão ser disponibilizados para que vocês possam ir para fora, né? Poder ter uma experiência internacional nesses principais destinos que hoje a gente vem trabalhando, Nova York, Califórnia, Londres e Itália. Tá bom? Um prazer mais uma vez, Carolina, Ana Carolina, obrigado pelo convite.
Obrigada, Fernando, pela tua presença. A gente fica muito feliz por prestigiar a tua fala, dos colegas. E a gente te aguarda na próxima International Week, então.
Com certeza, estarei aí presencialmente na próxima edição. Tá? Um abraço a todos, um ótimo final de semana e saudade aí de todos na UX. Um abraço.